If you're a serious history buff or a survival-minded researcher, stick with me for the next minute, because this is one of those forgotten World War II innovations that quietly outperformed modern gear long before ultralight camping became a trend. And before we get deep into the details, make sure you subscribe to the Prepper Historian so you don't miss any powerful, overlooked field techniques that shaped real wartime survival. What you're about to learn isn't speculation. It's field-tested engineering born from cold, sleepless, frost-nipping nights on some of the harshest battlefields of the 20th century. This tube system didn't just keep soldiers warm, it kept them alive. And it has real, practical applications for modern preppers today. The story starts with a brutal problem that sleeping bags couldn't solve. By the early years of World War II, both Axis and Allied troops discovered the same uncomfortable truth. Sleeping bags simply weren't designed for warfare. They were bulky, slow to pack, often soaked through with condensation, and deadly when frost turned moisture into rigid, ice-coated shells. Infantry moving through winter ground, even elite alpine units, needed something that insulated, protected and stayed functional despite mud, slush and sub-zero temperatures. Traditional sleeping bags locked soldiers into one position, restricted exits during firefights, and froze solid when wet. Commanders needed something different, something flexible, something rugged. That's when several armies, most notably German and Finnish forces, adopted a piece of kit that looked odd but proved incredibly effective. A weather-resistant, heat-holding sleeping tube made from layered fabric, animal skin lining or oil-treated canvas that trapped warmth far better than early military sleeping bags ever did. The tube worked because it used one principle soldiers could count on: controlled microclimate heat retention. Here's what made the World War II tube surprisingly powerful. Instead of a bag with multiple stitched panels, it used a continuous wrap, essentially a durable fabric tube large enough for a soldier to slide into. Fewer seams meant fewer cold leaks. The design created a single controllable air pocket around the body. Once warmed by body heat, that pocket stayed warm. Soldiers often paired it with a wool blanket, wearing layered uniforms underneath. This combination produced a microclimate effect that modern outdoor science still uses today, with bivy sacks and emergency survival tubes. And because the tube was stiff enough to keep its shape, but flexible enough to roll or unroll in seconds, it allowed rapid deployment, absolutely critical during patrol breaks or sudden repositioning. Soldiers could enter or exit far faster than with traditional bags, giving them a real tactical edge during nighttime enemy advances. It excelled because it solved moisture, which is honestly the true killer of winter survival. Serious historians already know the real threat in winter warfare isn't just cold, it's wet cold. Wet fabric kills insulation. Wet insulation kills soldiers. The WWII tube addressed this by using materials that shed moisture naturally. The Finnish version favoured reindeer hide with the fur facing inward, an incredibly effective insulator that resisted moisture better than early synthetic fills. German units used oiled canvas exteriors with wool interiors. The Soviets improvised with quilted sheepskin and canvas hybrids. By minimizing moisture absorption, the tube stayed functional longer and allowed soldiers to rest without risking hypothermia. Think about the practical advantage. A patrol could halt for 20 minutes, slip into the tube, recover heat, and move again without hauling a frozen, soaked, or heavy bag. Mobility was survival. Its biggest advantage was versatility, something modern preppers can use right now. One of the most overlooked strengths of the WWII tube is that it wasn't just a sleeping tool. It doubled as a ground mat, a weather shell, a wind blocker, a stretcher wrap for casualties, and even an emergency flotation aid when treated canvas versions were sealed properly. If you want to apply this to modern prepping, here's a direct, practical example. Let's say you're building a cold weather emergency kit for your vehicle. Instead of packing a bulky sleeping bag that takes up space and loses insulation fast when wet, you can build a modern interpretation of the WWII tube using a lightweight bivy sack combined with a wool blanket or liner. Roll it tight, store it under the seat, and you now have a fast deploy system that retains heat more efficiently than a single-layer bag. Add a small mylar sheet inside, and you've just recreated the WWII microclimate effect troops relied on in forests from Karelia to the Ardennes. In another scenario, multi-day winter trekking, you can use the tube concept to reduce condensation buildup. Wrap your sleeping bag inside a waterproof bivy tube. This creates the same protective barrier the WWII versions used, keeping wind and moisture out while preserving the warmth your body produces. The tube also teaches one of the most valuable outdoor lessons: simplicity outperforms complexity. When you study field gear evolution, you see a pattern. The simplest wartime tools survive the longest because they fail the least. The WWII sleeping tube is a perfect example. No zippers to jam, no complicated stitching to tear, no synthetic fill to clump. Just a direct heat retention system built around the physics of trapped air and durable materials. This is why modern survivalists still carry emergency tubes in ultralight kits. This is why Arctic researchers use single-layer windshells over insulated liners. And this is why understanding this historical design gives you an edge in real-world preparedness. You learn to prioritize principles, not products. The real power of this forgotten tool is how it reshapes the way we think about cold weather survival. WWII soldiers understood something modern campers often forget. Warmth isn't created by gear. Warmth is created by the body, and gear's only job is to keep it from escaping. The tube didn't try to add warmth, it prevented loss. That's why it excelled. That's why it's worth studying. And that's why this knowledge belongs in every prepper's tool set. If you want more deep-dive history like this, real field-tested lessons that give you practical survival insight, make sure you subscribe to The Prepper Historian and share this guide with someone who loves learning the forgotten side of wartime innovation.